looks like there's just a ton more flying around me right now, so I'm gonna see what I can get. Hey everybody, this is Mike with Wyoming Photography, and I'm out with another episode of Birding and Nerding. And right now I'm out in Grand Teton National Park, and I'm going to be exploring Grand Teton and Jackson Hole, especially around the town of Jackson, and seeing what kind of spring birds have already come up into the area. There's definitely a lot going on. We're supposed to be getting some precipitation later today, some rain, maybe some snow, but right now, beautiful morning. Sunrise is starting to come up, and animals are starting to wake up for the most part. And starting out, because I live in the little town of Kelly in the southeast corner of the park, I'm starting off by the Kelly Warm Spring, which has been essentially taken over by geese, and heading back up the road from there and seeing who's out early and who's out for sunrise and getting some breakfast. So let's go see what we can find today. So far it is a little bit quiet, but right now I'm driving by the Grovant Slide, which is actually one of the largest landslides in recorded history. And that occurred back in 1925, back when the town of Kelly was vying with Jackson to be the county seat. And 2 years later, the dam that was created, that dammed up the Grovant River, that wound up breaking and essentially flooded out the town of Kelly. And Kelly rebuilt, but almost as soon as it started rebuilding, it was absorbed into Grand Teton National Park, essentially, to make a long story short. And so it never got much bigger than it is right now, and right now it's a town of it's an unincorporated town of about 200 people or so, just sitting in the southeast corner of Grand Teton National Park. Not seeing a whole lot now, but what I have been seeing out here are the bluebirds, some dark-eyed juncos, mountain chickadees, the latter two being more year-round residents. And also what I've been seeing are sage grouse, the greater sage grouse, hanging out by the Kelly Warm Spring. And the sage grouse is a vital animal to this ecosystem. It's essentially a keystone species, and it is only found in 5 or 6 states in this area, and they depend on that sagebrush desert to sustain them. And all the animals in this ecosystem, a lot of the predators, coyotes, golden eagles, hawks, things like that, they depend on the sage grouse for survival. So if the sage grouse wind up going away, then the whole ecosystem starts to collapse. And their numbers have been dropping, and they are considered a very threatened species right now. And so the states have banded together to try to minimize the impacts on their habitat, which has been from urban development, oil and gas extraction, things like that. So there's been a lot of push to try and save what's left of the sage grouse. All right, so I just made a really worthwhile stop. I saw a herd of bison, a small herd that was in a creek. It was a really nice reflection. The sun was just coming up on them, and so I nearly drove off and decided to just go ahead and take a shot of them anyway. And as I got in a position to get a shot of them, a killdeer wound up landing right next to me. Got some great shots of that. And while killdeer are in the region year-round, they typically migrate out of the valley of Jackson Hole for the winter. Anyway, great shot of the killdeer. There was another western meadowlark that started flying around. I don't think I got any great shots of that. Also some sandhill cranes, the first 3 I've seen this season. And sandhill cranes will go as far as the Arctic for their breeding season, but many of them will stop over here in Jackson Hole for the summer as well, arriving during the spring season. So saw 3 sandhill cranes that had just come in, and lots of Canada geese at the Warm Spring as mentioned. And so in addition to the bison, that was definitely a worthwhile stop. Got some really beautiful shots of the geese and the steam in the Warm Spring, the sandhill cranes and the sunrise light, and the killdeer, which I don't think I've ever been that close to a killdeer, which was great. So starting off is a really good morning, and gonna see what else today brings. Now I'm probably not gonna go too much farther north, and that's just because there's still a lot of snow. As you can probably see out the window, there's still a good foot or two here. The warm spring is a great hot spot this time of year, just because there's not a lot of snow that's built up around it, because it is a warm spring, it tends to melt, and so a lot of birds will go there first. And the farther north you get in this valley, the more snow there is, which means there's less likelihood. So, gonna head in another part of the valley, and we'll see what we can find out there. While I was driving by, I did stop off at home just to grab a quick snack, i.e. second breakfast. And one of the birds that I've loved seeing all winter is the common redpoll. That's not one that's flying up here, that's one that actually flew down here for the winter. It comes up from the much farther north in the Arctic and things like that. And so it's been hanging out throughout the winter, and I've had a lot of fun seeing them. So they're going to be leaving soon, heading back out as soon as some more of the snow melts and it looks clear for them. But wanted to just throw them in there because they're quite a treat to see. All right, so now I'm down on the west side, the southwest side of Grand Teton National Park, and bluebirds flying away. It's hard to catch bluebirds in a car. But I'm on the Moose Wilson Road, which is technically still closed for the winter, but that's really only a 3-mile stretch that they groom for cross-country skiing and snowshoeing, and I've got another video where I do that. But out here exploring the road that is open on the northern end and seeing what is out here. And I really like this area because last year I saw a hooded warbler on this road, which if you look at their migration map, Jackson Hole is not on it, so that was a really nice surprise. So you never know what you're going to find here. Granted, it is still early, there's still a lot of snow on the ground, but there is open water, and that always helps attract birds. And so we're going to go see back here what we can see. Just a quick reminder, if you do want to come birding with me, or you want to find any other kinds of wildlife, I do offer private photography workshops and photo tours, and we'll do exactly what I'm doing now, driving around the park and seeing what we can find. If that's something that interests you, then definitely check out the links in the description, and it's always tailored to exactly what you want to do. So if it's birds, wildlife, landscapes, all the above, we'll focus on what you're wanting to explore. So check that out if that interests you. If you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe. Plenty more coming, and if you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comments below. So I got a couple of things out here now, but neither one of them are providing very good shots. There's an American robin, which they have been starting to show up the last few days. Also a Steller's jay, who is being very uncooperative for good shots. So may have to leave him behind and hope for something better on the way back. Well, it didn't take long. I tried to see if I could get a better shot of that Steller's jay. And in a lot of this open water in this beaver pond, there are quite a few mallards. And among the mallards, there were a few green-winged teals, which are really pretty birds. And a few of them stick around, but a few of them do migrate as well. So throughout the Rocky Mountains and a little bit farther west, the green-winged teals are year-round residents. Outside of that, though, they spend most of their winters in the southern part of the states and will go up into Canada and the northern states for their summer range. But here in Jackson Hole, some of them migrate out, but many of them do stay year-round. So definitely some activity picking up back here. They were not here a week ago when I drove through. So with all this open water, birds are starting to move around more, and it's beginning to look a lot like spring despite all the snow. So gonna keep moving, see what else is back here. So one thing I was expecting to say in this video is that I hadn't seen any swallows or warblers or sparrows or anything like that yet. I figured there was way too much snow, but I just heard right back there a song sparrow singing, which seems pretty early, but at the same time we've had unusually warm weather, so not too surprising. The downside is that it was tucked away in a bunch of willows through a braided creek, and there was really no way to get to it without getting drenched and full of mud and kind of tearing up the landscape and freaking out whatever else was back there, which could be moose. So might just have to count that one as an audible sighting. I'm starting to get a little bit back more into the woods and hearing some familiar sounds like the mountain chickadees, And these aspens are might also be black-capped chickadees. The mountain chickadees tend to prefer the evergreens. And they are the year-round visitors. I haven't mentioned our other year-round birds that hang out through the winter. The black-billed magpies, the common ravens, Clark's nutcrackers, things like that. They are pretty common. I saw them pretty frequently throughout the winter, as well as bald eagles and a few other things like that. So the road is going to be closed right up here. So I'm not expecting to see a whole lot more in this next 100 yards or so. And so I will turn around and see if we catch anything on the way out. Okay, so I'm stopped at the Flat Creek Overlook, which is a part of the National Elk Refuge. And on my way here, I actually saw my first red-tailed hawk of the season. That was perched up in a tree, but it was along a busy part of the highway, and it wouldn't have been safe to pull over, and I prefer to try to avoid starting car accidents. So didn't get any shots of that, but nice to see they're starting to come back. And then this overlook in particular is really great for a lot of waterfowl. Didn't see anything new, but got some good shots of some familiar faces like buffleheads, the trumpeter swans, Canada geese. And as the snow continues to melt, a lot of these bushes and the reed grass will start to fill in with more migratory birds. So I will keep checking here as the weeks go on, and in the meantime I'm gonna try to get to another part of the refuge and see what else is out there. Okay, so I'm in the backside of the National Elk Refuge, which there's a road that goes up on the east, aka the backside. And of course you have to go through town to get there, and as I'm driving in to this part of the entrance of the elk refuge, there's a bird flying around, and at first glance I thought it was a robin, but I stopped and took a closer look, and it turned out to be a gray-crowned rosy finch, one of the first shots I've ever gotten of them. And I did see them here up on one of these buttes earlier this winter, so they've been here, but I haven't seen one that low, and that was definitely probably the best shot I've gotten one, even though technically speaking it's not a great shot. It's nice up and close, which is hard to get to them, but at the same time all I was able to do is get a quick shot from my car, so I didn't have time to set up and actually take the shot I wanted. But still really exciting to see, and nice to see one of those out, and hopefully that or something else will come out with better opportunities. So bighorn sheep are a common resident in the National Elk Refuge. They migrate down out of the higher Grovant Mountains when the snow starts coming in, and they spend most of their winter, at least this herd spends most of their winter on Miller Butte, which is a few miles long, so they got a lot of territory, and it keeps them well fed and happy. And so in addition to elk, they are one of the primary residents that come down and migrate down into the refuge. So I stopped for a second to try to get a better look at some bluebirds that were flying up this butte, and trying to decide if it was even worth taking a shot of them, and it wasn't. They were too high up. But right behind me, a flock of horned larks just landed. And so I got a couple of shots of them. Nothing spectacular, but nice and close, which is good. And it looks like there's just a ton more flying around me right now, so I'm gonna see what I can get. So in the winter, the refuge road does not go nearly as far back as it does in the summer. And that's to protect a lot of the elk and bison that migrate in for the season. And thought about going to one more place, but all this weather we were supposed to get this morning is coming in just a couple of minutes. I can see it now, and it looks like it's making up for lost time. So I'm gonna call it there. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe to see more. If you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them down in the comments below. And if you want to check out those photo tours and workshops, check out the links in the description. And thanks for watching. Happy trails.